If you go down to the woods, and you're in a Russian folktale, you can be sure of one thing. Whether you're a young man in search of a bride, or a stepdaughter on an errand, or anyone really, you are going to meet Baba Yaga. What's not for sure, though, is what form the famous witch will take when you find her. She might be living underground, or in the sea. Or perhaps she'll be in a meadow, in a hut atop giant chicken legs. Heck, her legs might even be made of wood or bone. And sometimes she's not just one woman, but three. However, through all of these variations, two things are constant. First is that she eats people. It's kind of her thing. And second, every tale of Baba Yaga is actually about someone else. That's because Baba is not a person you and I are meant to understand. Rather, she lurks as a force beyond reckoning in the dark margins of our stories, passing through our lives like a falling star who will bring us either good luck or terrible misfortune. But the most confounding part of all is we might not be able to tell the difference. This episode is brought to you by you, our awesome patrons over on Patreon. Seriously, this episode would not exist without your generous support, so thank you very much. The Baba Yaga story I'll be telling you today begins with a Russian girl named Vasilisa. She was the only daughter of a merchant and a mother who died young. Eventually, the merchant remarried to a woman who also had two daughters, and the three new women in the family just hated Vasilisa. Why? Well, no real reason, except for the fact that she was beautiful, the prettiest girl in town, in fact, and much more popular than any of them. So, the stepmother and stepsisters made Vasilisa's life a living hell. They teased, they bullied, they overburdened her with difficult chores, but she bore it all. And despite that hard labor, her soft beauty remained, because of one weird trick. You see, a secret doll was given to Vasilisa by her mother on her deathbed. Before she passed, she told her young daughter that if she hid the doll and fed it well, it would protect her from evil. Evil like the tortures of her stepmother, which the doll helped her avoid by doing all of her chores itself overnight in secret. But for the stepmother's part, it just wasn't enough to have this one kid take care of the entire house. Oh no, because Vasilisa's ability to remain vibrant despite the insane amount of work, air quotes, she did, drove the stepmother mad and to drastic ends. One day, when Vasilisa's father left on a business trip, she had to work long into the night by the light of a candle. So before bed, the stepmother snuffed out said candle, knowing that the house was out of matches. Oops! Then, she insisted that Vasilisa go borrow a match from their friendly neighbor, Baba Yaga. "Could it not be one of the other neighbors?" she asked. "No," said the stepmother. "It must be the mysterious cannibal." Vasilisa was scared to death, for she had heard the stories. The time Baba Yaga cut off the heads of 40 men, or when she reduced a girl who visited her home to a basket of bones. But then her doll told her not to worry, and that it would all be okay, so off she went. For 2 days, she walked through that dark forest alone. Turns out Baba Yaga's hut wasn't close. Really inconvenient, actually. Almost like getting a new match wasn't really the priority here. But finally, she emerged into a noiseless meadow, where a gnarled, sinister hut sat squat on chicken legs, surrounded by a fence of human bones dotted with dead-eyed skulls. Beyond it, the door was bolted with human hands, and its lock stuffed with gnashing teeth. The house of Baba Yaga. She assumed because it wasn't like there was a sign or anything. And as she lingered, down from the sky came Baba herself. A gaunt, hunchbacked crone with long white hair and tough weathered skin, flying in on a giant mortar and pestle. Terrified, Vasilisa explained why she had come, and the old crone laughed. Well, Baba Yaga was nothing if not a good neighbor. So she said sure, she could borrow a match, if first she made Baba dinner. Oh, and if she didn't, not only would she not get said match, but Baba Yaga would eat her instead. "Oh, is that all?" Vasilisa said. Heck, she was used to hard work. Well, having a doll that did all the hard work for her. So even though Baba wanted enough food to feed 10 men, Vasilisa and her doll made the giant dinner easy peasy. And after Baba stuffed herself with the delicious meal, because by that time it was so late, Vasilisa stayed the night, and in the morning asked for the match that she had been promised.
Sure.
Baba said, if once again she made her dinner, and cleaned all the rooms, and did all the washing, and harvested a quarter of oats from the field. You know, standard stuff. Otherwise, not only would Baba not land Vasilisa a match, but as she promised before, she'd eat her up. After this incredibly fair-sounding renegotiation, Baba then left for what I assume is her day job, I don't know. But once again, the doll which ensured no harm came to her tore through every piece of grueling busywork. Then when Baba Yaga eventually came home, expecting to get a tasty Vasilisa snack, she was more than a little annoyed that the impossible list of tasks that she'd left had all been finished. I mean, she really wanted to eat this kid.
How did you manage to finish all these chores?
Now, remember, Vasilisa's mother said she could never tell anyone about the magic doll. So, thinking very tactfully, she cleverly answered, with my mother's blessing. And at that, Baba freaked.
Blessing? I cannot have anyone blessed in this house. I mean, look at me, I'm devil adjacent. Get out.
Though before she kicked her to the curb, she did keep her word and gave her a match. Or rather, a skull with burning eyes stuck on a stick. Not exactly what was agreed upon, but, you know, same spirit, I guess. Now, a little freaked out, Vasilisa was going to dump it. But then suddenly, the skull itself spoke.
Don't you dare! You'll take me to your stepmother's house, young lady!
Aw, that's nice, she thought. He must want to meet the family. When she finally returned home, new fiery friends still in hand, she found the house right where she'd left it, plunged into darkness. And inside, the stepmother and her daughters were very distraught. For even though the stepmother had sent her out to be eaten by Baba Yaga, she really hadn't thought that plan through all the way. She really did need a match, and she really needed Vasilisa, who did do all the work in the house after all. They were lost without her. "We've been in the dark for a week," the stepmother said. "Perhaps your skull on a stick could fill our eyes with light once more." And that, my friends, was oops number 2. As the stepmother and stepsisters looked into the skull, their own eyes caught fire and melted straight out of their sockets. Screaming, roaring in agony, all 3 of them went up in flames until nothing was left but a pile of ash on the living room floor. Then her dad came home. Talk about awkward. In the end, the fearsome Baba Yaga, outfoxed by Vasilisa and her doll, wrought revenge by making the girl murder her stepfamily. Or did she? I mean, just consider what happened to Vasilisa afterwards. She moved into the city, got a reputation as a fine weaver, all the weaving done by her doll, of course, and married the Tsar, aka continuing the long-standing tradition of folktales that have happy endings for beautiful people who don't like to work. Now, did Baba know that would happen? I mean, was the skull on a stick not a curse, but in fact a gift? It's impossible to know. And that is the point. If you crossed Baba's path, she might help you, or she might hurt you, or both, or neither. You never knew what she wanted, except to eat people. Beyond that, she was always an enigma. One who belongs to a time long past, where what was inexplicable and unexplainable stayed that way. An age of mystery and wonder, when a girl would have to venture into eldritch forests and walk for 2 days alone in search of a simple match to light a candle. Good thing today there's no need for Baba Yaga in a world of electricity, though she might think otherwise. Because, turns out, Baba is actually all over the internet. Heck, she's even a patron of ours over on Patreon. No, it's true. Yeah, turns out she sticks around for all of our bonus content. Hey! In all seriousness though, did you know that Extra Mythology as a series started out as a stretch goal over on our Patreon? Yeah, it was that ongoing support which allowed us to create shows like So You Haven't Read, and what made it financially possible for us to bring Extra Mythology back into production. AKA, without our patrons, these shows like the one you just watched simply wouldn't exist. So if you'd like to join our Patreon community, not only will you be helping us create the content that you love, but you'll also have access to a ton of cool perks, like having your name in the credits. Or having your name in the credits next to a custom bean art portrait of your face. Or viewing all of our shows 24 hours early, or an invitation to our official Discord to chat it up. Or exclusive 4K wallpapers and never-before-seen digital posters. Or 20% off our merch store where you can and should totally snag this sweet Zoe shirt. Or, and a lot more. Wait, that last part got away from me, but you get where I'm going with this, right? So whether you'd like to join an awesome community, help forge the future of Extra history, see your name on the little screen, or just want to make sure we can keep creating all our shows, please consider becoming a patron via the link below. We would very much appreciate it. Plus, if you do, you'll be joining the splendiferous ranks of Ahmed Ziad Turk, Angela Valenciana, Arcalite Games, Casey Muscha, Dominic Valenciana, Joseph Blaine, Kuyakoy, and Skylar Holmes were amazing legendary patrons. I'm not kidding.